sheriff says he believes Nancy Guthrie is being held close to her home. Here is more of what he told our partners at the BBC.
I could sit here and tell you, boy, we'll never solve this case. And then the next day we solve it. Here's one that I go, man, I wish we could solve it in the next 10 minutes. It may be the next 10 days, the next 10 months, or worse.
Wow, the next 10 months or worse. Andres Gutierrez, as he has been for so many days, faithfully at his post in Tucson. What's the latest?
Major, there have been no huge developments here on day 18 of the search. However, we are getting some of the nuances in this very complex investigation. This afternoon, the Pima County Sheriff's Department says that the only video that we have seen that the FBI shared with us of that man at Nancy Guthrie's front door is the only usable and video that the engineers over at Google have been able to recover. There are additional cameras here from her property. One we saw getting plucked from the rooftop by FBI agents on Friday the 6th. They are still working to try to see if there's any usable video. They are hopeful that the very smart engineers over at Google will be able to help them do that and extract video that they can share with the public and hopefully help them churn up additional leads. They have not ruled out that the person that you saw in that doorbell video didn't work without an accomplice. So they believe that this person may have also had a second individual who ended up snatching Nancy in the middle of the night. Another big name that law enforcement are working with is Walmart. They are trying to identify the man in that video by what he had. We know that the backpack, that black Ozark Trail hiker backpack, is sold exclusively at the retail giant. Authorities say that the company has turned over purchase records with names, and so detectives are right now cross-referencing dates, stores, and transactions. FBI agents are also visiting local gun stores here in Tucson, trying to identify where that guy bought that firearm and that holster that he had close to his groin, not by his side. And a lot of firearms experts saying that it just shows how much of an amateur he was in carrying out this crime. There is also DNA evidence that was found inside Nancy's house.
The suburban tapestry of Tucson, Arizona, is usually woven with predictable threads: morning joggers, the hum of lawnmowers, the distant laughter of children. It's a place where peace isn't just a concept, but an unspoken covenant, an assumed reality. That covenant shattered on January 31st, 2026, with the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother to a national icon, Savannah Guthrie. The initial shockwave rippled through the community, then exploded across the country. How could an elderly woman vanish from her own home in broad daylight or just after dusk? The questions were immediate, the answers non-existent. Investigators swarmed, forensic teams meticulously scoured every inch of Nancy's modest, yet inviting ranch-style home. Neighbors recounted seeing nothing unusual, a chorus of "she was such a sweet lady" echoing through hurried interviews.
They did ask specifically for the 31st of January and the morning of the 1st of February, and then they wanted to know if we saw anything suspicious on our cameras.
The initial narrative was one of a random, opportunistic crime, a cruel twist of fate. But as weeks turned into a harrowing month, a new piece of evidence emerged, not from the scene of the crime, but from its shadow, a shadow cast 7 days earlier. It began, as so many modern mysteries do, with a flicker on a screen. A Ring doorbell camera, nestled inconspicuously on the porch of a house 2 blocks from Nancy Guthrie's residence, registered movement. Not a package delivery, not a neighbor, but a figure. A person, cloaked in an oversized dark hoodie, head down, almost deliberately trying to avoid the lens. They moved with a disturbing rhythm, slow and deliberate, pausing at mailboxes, peering into driveways, their gait more of a prowl than a stroll. The timestamp, January 24th, exactly 1 week before Nancy Guthrie vanished. This wasn't a random passerby. This wasn't someone lost. This was a predator casing the area, meticulously mapping out the vulnerabilities of a quiet, unsuspecting street. The video, grainy and unsettling, quickly became the central focus of the investigation. It showed the individual walking the entire length of Nancy Guthrie Street, sometimes crossing, sometimes lingering, their presence a stark, unsettling stain on the canvas of suburban tranquility.
He's carrying two backpacks, one on his back, one in his hands. The bag in his hands has reflective straps on it. He tries to push through the gate or toss the bag over. Can't do it. Picks it up and walks off, gone by 1:53. The second camera is Nancy Guthrie's own doorbell.
Who was this ghost in the suburbs? And what precisely were they looking for? The comfortable hum of Tucson had been replaced by a chilling silence, punctuated only by the relentless questions that echoed in the hearts of a shocked nation. This new footage wasn't just a clue. It was a terrifying glimpse into a meticulously planned act, ripping apart the illusion of safety and thrusting the Guthrie case into an even darker, more sinister light. The release of the new surveillance footage sent a fresh wave of urgency through the investigative teams. Until this point, the timeline of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance began abruptly on January 31st. Now, a chilling prologue had been uncovered, pushing the origins of the crime back by a full week. The individual in the video, dubbed the Scout by frustrated detectives, moved with an almost practiced anonymity. They weren't running, weren't drawing attention, but their very presence was a glaring anomaly in a neighborhood where strangers often stood out. The figure's movements were too precise, too measured for a casual walk. They walked slowly, almost as if counting steps, occasionally glancing up at homes, their gaze lingering on features that would later prove crucial. The lack of visible security cameras, the presence of overgrown shrubs offering concealment, the ease of access to backyards. The Tucson Police Department, alongside the FBI, immediately launched a public appeal for information. The grainy, night vision quality of the video made positive identification difficult, but distinguishing features, however subtle, were being meticulously analyzed. Analysts zoomed in on the way the individual carried themselves, the brand of their shoes a long shot, but sometimes all it took, the unusual bulk of their hoodie. Every frame was a piece of a puzzle, each pixel scrutinized for a clue, a hint, anything that could break the case wide open. Social media exploded with theories, citizen detectives poring over the footage, pausing, rewinding, enhancing, desperate to contribute to finding Savannah Guthrie's mother. The sheer volume of tips coming into the FBI hotline was overwhelming, each one needing to be sifted through, no stone left unturned. But the digital footprint extended beyond just the Ring camera. Investigators began pulling footage from every available source in a several-block radius. Convenience stores, gas stations, traffic cameras, even other private home security systems, all became potential gold mines. The hope was to trace the Scouts' entry and exit points into the neighborhood, to see if they arrived in a vehicle or on foot from a less populated area. This painstaking process, often mind-numbingly repetitive, was critical. Every minute of footage had to be watched, every shadow examined. They were looking for the moment the Scouts' anonymity broke, even for a split second. A glimpse of a face, a license plate, a distinctive piece of clothing not covered by the generic hoodie. The silence of the neighborhood on January 24th was a stark contrast to the digital cacophony now surrounding it, a testament to the powerful, yet often elusive, nature of modern surveillance. The public, gripped by the unfolding drama, eagerly awaited any further development, clicking refresh on news sites, desperate for answers. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on every twist and turn of this gripping investigation. The digital dragnet began to yield chilling results. By triangulating footage from 3 different smart doorbell systems, investigators managed to stitch together the Scouts' path. This wasn't a random walk, it was a tactical survey. At 10:14 p.m. on that cold January 24th night, the figure spent exactly 4 minutes standing in the shadow of a large desert willow directly across from Nancy Guthrie's driveway. They weren't looking at the house, they were timing the streetlights. They were watching the patterns of the neighbors, noticing who took their dogs out for a final walk, and who turned their porch lights off early. As the FBI's cyberforensics unit dived deeper, they discovered something even more unsettling than the physical presence on the street. A digital geofence warrant revealed that a burner phone had pinged off a nearby tower during those exact hours. The phone had no registered name, no billing history, and had been activated at a gas station 3 towns over. This was professional. This was someone who understood how to stay off the grid while hiding in plain sight. The predator wasn't just scouting the physical terrain. They were scouting the response time of the local precinct. Public fascination with the case reached a fever pitch as these details leaked. True crime forums were abuzz with the 7-day theory, the idea that the kidnapper had a ritualistic obsession with the number 7. If you're finding this deep dive into the evidence as gripping as we are, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming breakdown of the forensic evidence found in the backyard. The most haunting discovery, however, wasn't on a hard drive. It was a physical discovery. A technician reviewing the high-definition Ultra 4K feed from a neighbor's upgraded security system noticed a small, rhythmic flash coming from the scout's hand. It wasn't a phone screen. It was a laser rangefinder. The kidnapper was measuring distances, the distance from the curb to the front door, the distance between the streetlights, and the distance to the nearest escape route. Nancy Guthrie wasn't just a target. She was a calculated objective in a cold, mathematical equation. The sweet lady, everyone knew, was being reduced to a set of coordinates by a monster with a plan. The focus shifted from the scout on foot to the machinery that likely transported them. If the predator was calculating distances on the 24th, they needed a way to disappear within seconds on the 31st. Lead investigators began a grueling canvass of the pixels, pulling data from every automated license plate reader, ALPR, within a 5-mile radius of Nancy's home. They weren't looking for a car that sped away. They were looking for a car that belonged nowhere. That's when the silver ghost appeared. A late-model sedan, possibly a Honda or a Toyota, appeared on 3 separate cameras between 11:00 p.m. and midnight on the night of the scouting mission. It had no front plate, legal in some states, but a tactical advantage in Arizona. The windows were tinted so darkly they appeared like ink against the desert night. Most disturbingly, the car didn't park. It looped. It circled the block 4 times, always maintaining a steady, agonizingly slow 15 miles per hour. It was a secondary layer of surveillance, a getaway rehearsal happening in real time while Nancy Guthrie likely sat inside her home, perhaps watching the evening news, oblivious to the metal shark circling her property. As this information went public, the tension in Tucson reached a breaking point. Every silver car became a source of terror. The car's behavior on the night of the scouting mission suggested a level of discipline that terrified the FBI. They realized they weren't dealing with a local drifter or a desperate amateur. This was a dry run. The driver was testing sightlines, checking for blind spots in the neighborhood's coverage, and ensuring that when the time came, they could vanish into the labyrinth of the Tucson outskirts without hitting a single red light. The silver ghost was the final piece of the scouting puzzle, proving that Nancy's abduction wasn't just a crime of opportunity. It was an execution of a plan 7 days in the making. The digital breadcrumbs led to a roadside field just 2 miles from Nancy's home, where investigators hit what they thought was the jackpot. A single black neoprene glove lay discarded in the dirt, seemingly a match to the pair worn by the masked man on Nancy's porch. Forensics teams rushed the item to the lab, hopeful that the sweat or skin cells trapped inside would finally give the ghost a name. But when the results from the FBI's CODIS database came back, the room went silent. No match. The DNA belonged to an unknown male, a shadow with no criminal record, no military history, and no trail. This revelation changed the nature of the hunt. If the suspect isn't in the system, it means he's been careful, or he's been lucky, until now. Sheriff Chris Nanos and the FBI have shifted their focus to investigative genetic genealogy, the same revolutionary tech used to catch the Golden State Killer. They are now combing through public family trees, looking for the cousins or distant relatives of the man who left that glove behind. It's a race against time, as the reward for information has now skyrocketed to over $200,000, funded by the FBI and a massive anonymous donor. As this mystery unfolds, the world is watching with bated breath. We see you tuning in from Tucson, New York, and even as far as London and Sydney. The global community is united in the hope for Nancy's safe return. If you are watching from Arizona or anywhere else and want to help keep this investigation in the spotlight, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your engagement helps ensure this story stays on everyone's feed until Nancy is found. The most heartbreaking detail of this stage wasn't the lack of a DNA hit, but a discovery inside the house. Forensic sweeps found a third biological sample that didn't belong to Nancy or her family. It was found near the back entrance, distinct from the blood droplets on the porch. This wasn't a struggle, it was a signature. The kidnapper had left a part of himself behind, perhaps out of arrogance or perhaps as a mistake. With investigators now looking into recent firearm purchases and a specific 25-liter Ozark Trail backpack, the net is widening, and the shadow is finally starting to take a shape. As the investigation entered its third week, the digital silence was shattered by a series of chilling communiques. Multiple media outlets, including TMZ and local Tucson stations, reported receiving sophisticated ransom demands. The messages were cold, written with a clinical detachment that sent shivers through the FBI's behavioral analysis unit. They demanded $6 million, not in traceable cash, but in high-privacy cryptocurrency. The sender claimed Nancy was aware of the demands and scared, a psychological jab intended to twist the knife for the Guthrie family. However, a darker reality lay beneath the surface. FBI Special Agent Heath Jank revealed that despite the terrifying threats, the notes contained no proof of life, no current photo, no specific answer to a security question only Nancy would know. This silence created an agonizing black hole in the investigation. Was it a professional kidnapping, or were heartless opportunists trying to capitalize on a national tragedy? The FBI even moved to arrest one man, Derek Calella, for sending a phony ransom demand via text, proving that the monsters weren't just in the shadows, they were also behind keyboards. To our viewers watching from Tucson, Arizona, and those following this case from across the globe, the tension is at an all-time high. Every update brings us closer to the truth, but we need to keep the pressure on. The most disturbing development came when investigators analyzed the timing of these notes. They weren't sent from a distance. The digital pings suggested a sender who was intimately familiar with the local area's news cycle. While Sheriff Chris Nanos confirmed that blood found on the porch was indeed Nancy's, the lack of a verified proof of life has led profilers to a haunting question. Was the ransom ever the primary goal, or was it a smokescreen to buy the silver ghost more time to cross the border? The clock is ticking, and for Savannah Guthrie and her family, every second without a word is a second stolen from hope. As the hunt for the scout intensified, the investigation zeroed in on a specific piece of gear that has become the most promising lead to date: a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack. This isn't just a generic bag. It's sold exclusively at Walmart, providing the FBI with a finite paper trail. Investigators have spent the last 48 hours combing through thousands of transaction records from Tucson area Walmarts, looking for anyone who purchased this specific model, alongside other items seen in the footage, like the neoprene gloves and the distinctive dark ski mask. The FBI's behavioral analysis of the gear suggests a chilling paradox. The suspect is wearing high-end tactical gear mixed with common, off-the-shelf items. This mixed profile points to someone who is disciplined enough to plan a kidnapping 7 days in advance, yet practical enough to use items that wouldn't normally trigger a red flag. The Ozark Trail backpack was visibly overstuffed in the surveillance video, leading profilers to believe it contained the kidnapping kit, zip ties, duct tape, and the very tools used to disable Nancy's security cameras. For those of you joining us from California, Texas, and even up north in Canada, we appreciate you keeping this search active. This is a global effort now. If you've ever seen someone in the Tucson area carrying this specific black hiker pack under suspicious circumstances, your tip could be the one that brings Nancy home. While the Ozark Trail lead heats up, Sheriff Chris Nanos has revealed that the task force is currently tracking 20 individuals of interest. These aren't formal suspects yet, but people whose cell phone data, vehicle descriptions, or recent histories overlap with the 7-day timeline. Among them are individuals with prior stalking or burglary convictions, as well as people known to have worked in the Catalina foothills area in the months leading up to January. The net is tightening, and the silver ghost car is no longer just a shadow, it's a target. The question now isn't if they find the person behind the mask, but if they find them in time to save Nancy Guthrie. As the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance grinds into its third week, the Silver Ghost and the Scout remain the primary phantoms haunting the Tucson desert. The transition from a search and rescue mission to a high-stakes criminal probe has turned the quiet Catalina foothills into a focal point of national anxiety. With reward money now totaling over $200,000 and the FBI's elite behavioral units working around the clock, the pressure is immense. Yet the question remains, where is Nancy? The most high-tech hope currently lies in the signal sniffer technology. Because Nancy wears a pacemaker with Bluetooth capabilities, specialized teams are monitoring the airwaves for any rogue pings that could pinpoint her location. This digital heartbeat is a tether between Nancy and the world she was ripped away from, but as the days pass, that tether feels increasingly fragile. Savannah Guthrie's absence from the Today Show serves as a daily, silent reminder of the void left by this abduction, as she remains in Arizona, pleading for the one person who knows the truth to finally come forward. We want to thank you for following this deep dive with us. Whether you are watching from Arizona, Florida, or across the ocean, your eyes on this case matter. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to stay informed on the final breakthroughs. Sharing these updates keeps the search alive and ensures that the Scout has nowhere left to hide. The story of Nancy Guthrie is more than just a headline. It is a battle between a meticulously planned evil and a community's relentless hope. As forensic genealogists begin the painstaking work of tracing the unknown male, DNA through public family trees, the net is closing. The shadow that stood under the desert willow 7 days before the crime is being brought into the light, one pixel and one DNA strand at a time. We will be here with the update the moment an arrest is made. Until then, stay vigilant.